let's go ahead and start out with the Davante Adams trade. The Jets are sending
Who?
the Jets are sending a conditional third-round draft pick that can become a second-round pick if he is either a first-team or second-team All-Pro this season, or on an active roster for the AFC Championship game or Super Bowl. It's not going to happen, but the other two things definitely have a chance. The ESPN also reports that Adams restructured his contract upon the deal to reduce his salary cap number to $3.21 million for the remainder of the season. And then Adams' salary cap previously stood at $11.59 million. His restructured contract now has 2 remaining voidable years. 2 sides plan to discuss his long-term future in New York and the offseason. Before we really dive in deep on this, excuse me, I just want to say, if the same motherfucker from TikTok is watching, yo, fuck you, because you weren't close. I don't know if you saw that same dude who was like, I would give a third for Adams, only if the Raiders sent a first on top of that. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? That's fucking stupid. And then today, that video was from October 2nd. October 2nd, he goes back to that saying, goes, I wasn't that far off. Bro, you were talking about another first-round pick, and this is a conditional third. You're fucking dumb. You have no idea what you're talking about. Stop fucking talking. We have a podcast. Of course we know what we're talking about. That's always how that works.
Duh.
So, but talking about the Davante Adams trade, how does this really impact both sides and significantly?
Does it?
You don't think it does that much?
I kind of outlined it. Garrett Wilson's a better wide receiver than Davante at this point in his career. And it's really not doing anything. And, they made a concentrated, effort to get Garrett Wilson involved. I mean, getting Mike Williams' corpse off the field, I guess, is a win for them. But
could fall apart at any moment.
The one thing about Davante, I wrote down a statistic here that I'm going to read because it's really far away, is his route versatility. He's got an 83.6 PFF grade when it comes to slants, outs, basically the route tree that you want to see a wide receiver run. And when you have Mike Williams, who literally just runs go routes, and then you have
or wrong routes,
facts. And then you have, who's the other guy that's been with the Packers and been with Lazard? I was thinking of Scantling because he was released today. Lazard, he really only does one thing. So it's definitely going to bring a new layer, but I still just don't think the offense is going to be good enough, which is disappointing. I mean, you have Breece Hall, you have Garrett Wilson, I just don't think Aaron has it anymore. Like he can't move around that much.
Yep.
And frankly, if they go down this road and they're not any good and they miss the playoffs, is he coming back next year? Is he going to Brett Favre his way out of the Jets to go to a different team the year after? Is he going to be a Minnesota Viking quarterback next year? Like, I don't think Davante moves the needle all that much. And I think you saw it in the compensation that he came with. And, maybe they'll have the connection back, but are the Jets with Davante Adams beating the Texans? Are they beating the Bills? Are they beating the Ravens?
Nope. Nope.
So
no,
I don't think it moves the needle most.
I think too that with the season, how it's gone for the Jets is it's almost too little too late when it comes to, you took away the play calling away from Nathaniel Hackett and then you fired your head coach. I don't know what you're expecting from your season after you do something like that. You have the offensive play calling kind of shifting hands at this point, and you fired your head coach. I don't know what you're expecting. I don't know what you want your finish to your season to be. I don't think you're going to be making really a playoff push at this point. I don't think you're even close to that. And I don't think Davante Adams is going to make that much of a significant difference. I think Garrett Wilson will end up getting more looks, and I think he'll end up having a better season. So from week 7 to week 18, I think he's going to be better. I think he's going to be a better wide receiver with better numbers because of the attention that Davante Adams is going to pull away a little bit. So I think the thing that affects the most is going to be Garrett Wilson. I think that's going to be the most affected thing in this entire thing. So
what about on the other side?
The Raiders are in shambles at this point, so I don't even know if it really matters that much. You don't even know who your quarterback is. We don't know who the head coach is. Max Crosby doesn't look like he likes people very much sometimes. So I'm not so sure about All right.
What's so funny?
That's pretty good. That's funny.
What? I don't get it. What's so funny?
I don't. Anyways, so I think this is a good deal for them. I think this gets a wide receiver off of their hands that they don't. You're having a really fun time with Max Crosby in different jerseys, aren't you?
let me explain something to you. So here's the thing. The Raiders at rock bottom, right? They just traded away their best offensive player. They continue to trade for these players that don't do shit for them. Richard Seymour, Randy Moss, Carson Palmer, Devontae Adams. They just don't move the needle for them. They never do anything. Matter of fact, since we're talking about the Raiders, and you know how much I love the Raiders because I'm wearing their jersey. The only reason I'm wearing their jersey is it was free. Mark Davis took over the Raiders in 2012. Shout out again to my guy, Josh Dubow. Their win percentage since 2012, 28th in the league. Points per game, 28th in the league. Points allowed per game, 32nd in the league. Points differential, 30th in the league. Playoff berth, a 5-way tie for 27th with 2. Playoff wins. They are last since 2012. Do you know what they're first in since 2012?
No.
Head coaches, 7.
God damn. Yeah.
So this is my thing. The roster is terrible. It just is. You got Brock Bowers. That's cool. He's a rookie.
Congrats.
Okay. You got nothing else at wide receiver. You got nothing at running back. You got Zamir Who and Alexander. I'm slower than a bag of dirt. Madison. On defense, you got Tyree Wilson. I think whoever that guy is. And then you got a top 5 defensive player in the NFL, and Max Crosby. So what's going to happen is you're going to have a huge draft class this offseason and next offseason. You're going to have to get a real coach in there, a Ben Johnson, something like that. By the time the Raiders are ready to compete, by the time the Raiders are ready to be good, 2 things have happened. Max Crosby's contract is either up and he wants more money, or Max Crosby's like, get me the fuck out of here. And he's going to request a trade. Yep. So what you do is you strike where the iron's hot. There is a team that now has a massive need at pass rusher, and that is the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions call them up. They see what is it going to take. The Detroit Lions go all in on their Super Bowl push this year, and they trade for Max Crosby. If you're the Raiders, it just makes too much sense to move him. What are you keeping him around for? It's not to sell tickets because your stadium is sold out every Sunday anyway. Not with your fucking fans. Here's another stat. The Pittsburgh Steelers against the Raiders, they are 2-0 in Las Vegas. Do you know what they were against the Raiders in Oakland? 1-9. The Pittsburgh Steelers could not win in Oakland because the Raiders had home field advantage. Do you know what they don't have in Las Vegas? They don't have a home field advantage. So you don't have to worry about selling tickets. You don't have to worry about selling jerseys because they give them away for free. You might as well move them for draft picks. He does he or does he not get the Jalen Ramsey package when Ramsey went from the Jags to the Rams? You can't get first in back-to-back years and a third, first in back-to-back years and a fourth for Max Crosby.
Yep. No, you absolutely can.
It just makes too much sense. You're going to go quarterback in the first round, and then you need a top flight corner. You need a top flight offensive tackle. You need talent all over the place. And Max Crosby's you're not winning anyway. So I don't think Devontae to the Jets moves the needle for the Jets.
Yeah.
It's going to be a 4th round pick because he's not going to hit any of those incentives. Maybe a 3rd round pick, but you can get a lot for Max Crosby, you know, and you can pair up some more talent with Brock Bowers, who's going to be an elite playmaker in this league once he gets off the Raiders and goes to his next team. And you just start to rebuild this from the bottom. And that starts with the coaching staff. This Antonio Pierce debacle is a joke. And I get it. You're still paying Gruden a shit ton of money. You're still paying, who's the dude from the Patriots that sucks at being a head coach? You're still playing Josh McDaniels a bunch of money, but that's why you're bringing in a new owner, because you're pushing Mark Davis out anyway. So wholesale Max Crosby off the Raiders, wholesale Mark Davis to the back and let Tom Brady run the show. And let's just get this thing going and let's make the Las Vegas Raiders great again.
The other trade that ended up happening today, Amari Cooper traded to the Buffalo Bills. The Bills announced that they are receiving Cooper and a 6th-round pick, a 2025 6th-round pick. Cleveland is going to receive a 2025 3rd-round pick and a 2026 7th-rounder in return. With this trade, for me, I think this is the polar opposite of the Jets. I think this does make a significant impact, and immediately. Amari Cooper has the immediate chance to play for a far more competitive team, a far better quarterback, probably maybe the best quarterback he's ever played for in his entire career. Oh, okay. And he's coming onto a team that he immediately leads in a lot of major statistical categories. Khalil Shakir had 249 yards and 2 touchdowns up to this point in 6 weeks, and he was significant. But Amari Cooper is already coming in and leading the team in yards immediately. Keon Coleman ends up following that with 201 yards and 2 touchdowns. And what this does for the Browns is it leaves them with no offensive weapons. I mean, you have Nick Chubb coming back with no knees. Well, I guess that's kind of cool. But I think the return is pretty good. It's better than trading Amari Cooper for just a 5th-round pick. I think that's a lot better. So I don't know who the hell would do that, but that owner must be fucking stupid or senile or something. But Amari Cooper has 24 receptions, 250 yards, and 2 touchdowns in 6 games. Again, leads a lot of statistical categories for the Bills. I think this gives Josh Allen a de facto 1, gives him a target that he can consistently go to and comfortably go to. This isn't a deep shot target. This is a guy who's going to get open and be your safety blanket. But if you need him to do other things, he can as well. He's had a little bit of drop problems this year. I think hopefully those will get cleaned up. So I think Amari Cooper is going to make a major impact on this Buffalo Bills team immediately. What about you?
He's been awful this year, so it's hard to say one way or another. But I just think that that's a lot on Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
And frankly, listen, I know you touched on this real quick, and I have to make a point here. Anytime that you can trade away one of the best route runners in the league for a 5th-round pick so you can overpay Michael Gallup, you just have to take that opportunity. He's the 77th ranked wide receiver in the league this year, Amari Cooper. I don't know where Michael Gallup is ranked, but I don't think it's 77th. And he's had some drops this year, and things haven't been going well for him. But frankly, here's the thing. How motivated could you be when you got a trash can ass quarterback that the owner's forcing you to play because he paid him too much?
I would not be. I'd be less than motivated to play for Deshaun Watson, catching balls from Deshaun Watson, because there's been a lot of people who's caught balls from Deshaun Watson, and I think there's a couple court cases for that. So I don't think Amari Cooper wants to be part of that.
Most of the people that have caught balls from Deshaun Watson are getting paid. So maybe Amari Cooper is about to get paid.
Exactly. Yeah, no.
That's the sort of shit we can't do when we get famous, just so you know.
Yeah, that's fair. If it happens, if everyone keeps watching and keep hitting the like button, make sure you do that.
Come on, Mom.
Yeah.
Come on, Mom.
Right. Yeah, I touched on the Amari Cooper thing a little bit when it comes to the not being great aspect of it this year, and a lot of it I think has to come it's the drops, right? So I think that's his main issue this year. Hopefully that gets cleaned up, gets a little bit more motivated, which Amari Cooper has had issues in the past of being motivated. The Raiders, the Cowboys, I watched it every single week with him on how much he was he hurt? Was he hamstring issues? Was he there was a lot of questions there. And I know he was hurt at times. I'm not going to discredit him there, but yeah, so I think Amari's going to make an immediate impact for Josh Allen and this Buffalo Bills team. Moving on away from our trades is we have to talk about is Justin Fields being benched for Russell. I always wear my pads on the sidelines, Wilson. Quote from Mike Tomlin: last week we were scheduled for Russ to work in totality. He did that. Over the course of the week, I got comfortable with his ability to display his health. Now it's knocking off the rest. He did some of that last week. He's in consideration this week. We'll see where that leads us. Both guys at the quarterback position are scheduled to work tomorrow. We'll just walk it day by day, all geared towards putting ourselves in the best position to win a football game. While Fields did not do amazing things with his arm this past weekend, so end quote for Tomlin, but while Fields didn't do amazing things with his arm this past weekend, I think he puts the Steelers into a position to win, because he didn't do anything to put them in a position to lose this past weekend. They won pretty significantly against the Raiders, and they're 4-2. And Justin's looked pretty good, to the point where we can move Justin Fields out of Drew's office at this point. So out of his studio. 6 games, 66% of his passes have been completed for 1,106 yards and 5 touchdowns and only 1 pick on the season. And then obviously he's done his thing on the ground as well. So I don't. What are we doing here? Why are we playing Russell Wilson? What's the point? Where are we going with this? Why are we benching Justin Fields, who we ragged on before the season, to now where we have a much higher opinion of him because of what he's done in these 6 games? And again, being 4-2 and putting the Steelers into a position to actually win for a guy who's washed and injured and not the same guy. What are we doing?
Listen, they asked Big Ben Roethlisberger recently.
I saw that. Yep.
And he's like, I absolutely would not consider making a change. I don't understand. The Steelers are doing things well right now because Justin Fields has the ability to stay active, move the pocket, run for first downs. He's a dual threat.
Yep.
Russell Wilson is not that. And maybe people that haven't watched him recently, he was deteriorating before our eyes in Seattle. It was the most precious thing I've ever seen in my life, watching him suck. Then he goes to Denver and he's just an absolute, just terrible at freaking everything. And then they literally punted his ass to Pittsburgh, and now they're going to bench Justin Fields, which has not been confirmed. He's just taking first team reps and he's considering to be starting on Sunday. But you're 4-2. Why are we thinking about making this change at this point? Russell Wilson doesn't move anymore. He doesn't scramble. He doesn't throw downfield. You don't have. It's a little bit of the problem that Jaden Daniels was having at the beginning of the year with the Commanders. Terry McLaurin was not taking a slant to the house, right?
Yeah. This
isn't Odell Beckham. The Steelers do not have a wide receiver room that is going to work under this dink and dunk offense that Russell Wilson has, that's what he is now. He's a dink and dunker. And I don't know. I hope they start him just so they can lose so I can laugh about it next week.
So bad that the Broncos would rather eat the biggest dead caps ever in NFL history than continue to have him on the team and playing. Not just playing, but just on the team in general, just because of how much everyone in that Broncos organization ended up hating that man, especially Sean Payton. But we've already touched on the pads every single week, and he was just active last week, but he's been literally in pads every week. It's just the corniest shit we've ever seen. It's stupid. People don't really like him. He doesn't have the locker room, and it seems like Justin does. He seems like a likable guy that a lot of guys want to rally around, and Russell Wilson's not that guy. No one likes him.
Can I player A, player B you real quick?
Okay, go ahead.
All right, player A.
Okay.
1,337 yards passing.
Okay.
Total. I'm sorry. 1,337 total yards. A 66% completion rating. 10 touchdowns, 1 interception, and a 93.9 passer rating. Player A. Player B, 1,652 total yards, so 300 more. 68.3% completion rating, a little better. 10 total touchdowns, tied. 4 picks, so 3 more than player A, and a passer rating of 98.6, so a little bit better pass rating.
What was the completion percentage of the first guy?
66.3.
Okay. And the other guy was 63?
68.3.
68.3.
So he's got a little better completion rating, a little better yards, but he's thrown 3 more picks.
Now, the picks don't always tell the story when it comes to that stuff because it could
be
the
drops.
Wide receivers. I'll take player B.
Okay. Player B is CJ Stroud. Player A is Justin Fields.
Yeah. It's been good.
The conversation is able to be had.
Yep.
And I know it's total yards and I get it, but that's what makes the threat of the Steelers offense. Nobody out there is afraid of George Pickens. I don't know what happened to my counterpart, Pat, out there in the Steelers, tight end situation. What's happened to him this year? He hasn't been doing much.
Yeah.
But there's not much to Najee Harris, there's not much out there for the Steelers. And you're going to basically take these pieces that don't do much and they go because of Justin Fields' dual threat capability. Yep. And everybody knows, go back to every podcast I've ever done. I like to make fun of Justin Fields. I don't think he's that good of a quarterback. He's been decent this year. They're 4-2. Switching to Russell Wilson is not the answer.
No, that doesn't put you in a winning position. moving away from the news that happened this week, or excuse me, today alone, and moving into some of the stuff that happened on Sunday, we wanted to talk about two specific things. Number one, I want to talk about the starting debut for Spencer Rattler and for Drake May, and kind of just what we thought about each one of them. You kind of touched on the Drake May thing a little bit and you've touched on it before about the offensive line and the dangers of it. I asked the question to you if Drake May or when will Drake May be seen this year, and the hopeful answer was we don't, because of the offensive line. And I think we saw those problems come to fruition this weekend. He got folded in half like a lawn chair. He got stepped on. He got landed on like a belly flop into a pool, and no remorse from. He looked pretty rough in terms of how much he got just kind of thrown around on Sunday against the Texans. And this is the same Texans team that gave Josh Allen a hard time. He went 9 for 30, 131 yards on the day, and that was and then in week 2 they ended up harassing Caleb Williams and picked him off twice and sacked him 7 times. So Drake May did fine. He did fine. Okay. He on a curve, he did excellent, but he did fine. 243 yards, 3 touchdowns, 20 for 33 passing. Also threw 2 interceptions, took 4 sacks and lost a fumble on top of it. First full NFL start. And when you're considering it against the Houston Texans, and this Texans defense is also given this a lot of other teams a lot of problems, I think he did pretty well. And again, considering that offensive line, I think they knew what they were doing when they drafted Drake May, right? They probably looked at their offensive line and said, damn, what's crazy about this offensive line? It looks like shit. You know what Drake May had in college? Nothing. He didn't have shit. He didn't have nothing. A Tez Walker, who I don't even know if he's even played in Baltimore yet. Like, he's had nothing. And they're like, yeah, we should get that guy, because what we have in New England? Nothing. We don't have shit except for lobsters and the statue of Tom Brady in our minds. That's what we have. Okay. They drafted Drake May because of that reason alone. I think they knew exactly what they were doing. I think that Drake May was New England's guy from the start, because all the other guys in the draft had something. Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, like these guys had weapons around him. Michael Penix had weapons around him. Not Drake May. I think they knew exactly what he was doing. And again, on a curve, I think that Drake May did pretty well. I'm obviously a little bit biased because how much I believe in Drake May, because I love his arm talent. I love the mobile type of aspect he can bring to the team and what he can do with not a lot around him. So again, I'm a little bit more biased because how high I rank Drake May. What did you think about Drake May?
I thought he was fine. I mean, obviously you saw the talent, you saw the mobility, you saw the ability. But you also saw him running for his life a little bit. And
Yeah.
I don't think that, obviously I'm not a professional coach. I'm not even a coach at anything. Actually, I probably should be a coach at work, but I don't even barely do that. So, obviously they saw something, they made a decision, they went that route. And I guess they had seen enough of Jacoby Brissett, but to put Drake May out there at this point with a lack of talent and a lack of offensive line, and just kind of put him out there to kind of get beat up on, I don't know if it makes the most sense at this point. You already knew you were going to suck this year. Like, what was the expectation?
Yeah. Again, I don't know what the pressure is in terms of like why they're pushing to start him so quickly. If it's a owner thing on wanting to see more, or what the deal is here. Offensive line looked bad, and he ran all over the place. And for the 2022-2023 season for FBS, he faced 409 pressures between those 2 seasons. The highest amount in those 2 seasons for any quarterback. He ran for like 953 yards between those 2 seasons. And you could see pretty much the exact same thing in New England. So he looked good. It just sucks that he has to start right now.
Where'd you find that at?
Just an article I pulled. It's in my notes.
Okay. Yeah. I was trying to pull up how many times Drake May was sacked last year in 2023 at North Carolina. I bet it was not a very high amount.
Yeah, I don't think I have it, but yeah,
I'd be willing to bet he's sacked more this year in his half season than he was last year. And then at that point, what's the point of he's going to get hurt, beat to shit, you know? And what if he just looks bad? Do you go back to Jacoby Brissett? How do you what's that with his confidence? Do you continue to let him look bad? I don't know. I would
yeah.
have liked them to stick with Jacoby Brissett until he was out with injury. That way you could put Drake May in and play him, but then when Jacoby came back, you could pull Drake May back out if it wasn't looking as great as you'd wanted it to be.
Yeah, because two things happen right here if you play Drake May, right? So two of the worst case scenarios, right? Worst case scenario number one is he gets injured, right? That's the worst thing that can happen to Drake May. The other worst thing that can happen to Drake May is he gets Bryce Young. Absolutely ruined. He ruins his confidence, ruins how he plays coming out of college, and he can't do it anymore. Those are the two worst things. And when you're playing him on a team that is this bad, I think that possibility is out there, and I think it's on the forefront of a lot of people's minds at this point. When you're looking at the other quarterback that ended up starting this weekend, Spencer Rattler started for the New Orleans Saints in place of Derek Carr, and it sounds like he's actually going to go ahead and start the next couple of weeks since Derek is going to be out with injury for his oblique. So Spencer Rattler, I'll let you go ahead and take the front on this one. What do you think about his debut?
I have one more stat for you, and then I'll go to Spencer Rattler.
Okay.
Texans, Danielle Hunter registered the fastest sack in week 6, taking down Drake May in 3.06 seconds.
It's crazy.
That is not great.
Yeah. I feel like we're holding a funeral for Drake May. We're very solemn at this point for him.
Spencer Rattler, I was actually some of his off scheduled plays were pretty impressive.
Yeah.
He was like 7 of 12 from outside the pocket for over 100 yards, and they talked about how some of that was just improvising. I don't know if this is him getting skittish in the pocket and leaving too early.
Yeah.
But if you're going to get out of the pocket and you're going to make the plays, then maybe it's not that big of a deal anyway. But we also need him to be a pocket passer if he wants to continue on, because, that's what Derek Carr has done is he's hung in there. He's made the passes. They're 2-4. So it's kind of tough to say, but that offense lit one of our teams up. So we know it's talented, but
yeah.
I was okay with what Rattler did. I mean, it's just hard to say. It's one game, and there was no tape on him, and he was able to get outside the pocket, move around a little bit, and keep plays alive. So we'll see. I want him to get in. I haven't seen the injury reports yet. It's not Wednesday; it's Tuesday night, so we don't know if Derek Carr's coming back this week. But
sounds like he's not.
I'd like to see him get another game, especially since, they are playing Denver this week.
They're playing the Broncos. So it's going to be. I was going to talk about that. So they scored 27 points in this game. You can't really gripe about that too much. The defense gave up 51. You can't really you score as much as you can, but they also only scored in one quarter. When you go scoreless 3 out of the 4 quarters, you can put a little bit on the offense. But again, it's 27 points. So you can't complain about that. Spencer played well, and I hope he does get another shot. When it comes to the Broncos, though, is Pat Surtain playing this week? I know he was out with concussion right at the beginning of the game last week.
Yeah, I don't. Again, that's the only downfall to this early podcasting stuff is we don't have injury reports yet.
Yep, that's the only thing. I think that it's going to be bad next week. I will say that because how well that the Broncos defense has been playing.
He did not practice today.
Okay, well, they play a lot of cover 0, and a lot of that has to do with how much respect and how much how comfortable they are letting Pat Surtain sit on the outside. Also pair that up with Riley Moss. Shout out. He's had a great year this year. Breakout season for him. So Riley Moss and Pat Surtain has really held together that entire defense, along with guys like on the defensive line, Zach Allen getting a lot of pressures up there. And he almost made it on there for Defensive Player of the Week. He had 8 tackles, 0.5 sacks, 4 tackles for loss, and a quarterback hit. So he was all over the place on the defensive line as well. So a lot of breakout guys for the Broncos playing really well. but the defensive coordinator's showing out, and he's doing a great job with them. Again, playing the most amount of cover zero in the entire league, and it definitely shows. Moving on from the rookie quarterbacks, though, the last headline that I want to talk about before we move on to our snap decisions is a man that we already talked about a little bit, and is how significant is the injury to Aidan Hutchinson for the Lions' Super Bowl hopes? Like, how much are we now tempering our expectations because of the impact that Aidan has had this year has been major. It's 19 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 7.5 sacks, a forced fumble, and leading the entire league and pressures on top of that. He was on the path to securing his first defensive player of the year, and he's now down, and he's going to be out for the entire year. So how significant is this injury for the Lions' Super Bowl hopes, their conference championship hopes? How big is it?
I actually don't think it's as significant as you might think it'll be, because they're going to solve their issue.
Stupid. I swear. How many of these have you had? Jesus Christ!
I just stay locked and loaded on my content, man. They need to make a they need to make a trade. They need to make a trade. They are not sniffing a Super Bowl without Aidan Hutchinson. I would call the Raiders and offer them anything. I would have already traded for Hassan Reddick, but that seems like some weird ass shit with him, with his agency firing him. That never happens. I can't wait for the story to come out on this whole thing.
Did you hear that he's being allowed to seek a trade now?
Oh, is he?
He is, and he got a new agent too. I think it's Tyreek Hill's agent.
He should just show up in Detroit.
Just pop up.
You know how you see those little videos of how the player knows he gets cut because he goes to swipe his card and he can't get in?
Oh, dude, yeah, I hate that.
He should just go to the headquarters of the Detroit Lions and just knock.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm the Lions, There was a clip today. Ian Rappaport was on the Pat McAfee show, and he's on his FaceTime on his phone, and the FaceTime went out for a little bit, and he's still talking, and then it comes back, and Pat's like, "What was that?" And Ian's like, "Oh, it was a phone call." And Pat's like, "I know it was a phone call. What was it? What was it? What was it?" And he's like, and he's like, was it the Lions trading for a player?" And Ian was like, "It was not the Lions." And Pat was like, "Was it somebody asking what the Lions will give up to trade for a defensive pass rusher?" And Ian was like, Pat, like the phone calls are happening. I guarantee you the Lions have blown up the phones. And if they have not already called the Raiders and offered everything for Max Crosby, that would be a mistake, because their Super Bowl chances are out the window with this injury.
And this is the 4th Lions defender to be out for the entire year, and the most significant one. You have Marcus Davenport going down with a torn tricep in week 3, Derek Barnes injuring his knee, being out for the rest of the year, and then Kyle Pecco in this last game as well ended up suffering a torn pec, and that will end his season as well. So you have the 4 Lions in 6 weeks, 4 starters in 6 weeks, all going out and being down for the rest of the year. So yeah, and again, the most significant one being Aidan Hutchinson, obviously on his way to getting that defensive player of the year. And it just sucks. It sucks to see, but yeah, I would agree with you. I think this is going to be a significant impact, because if you've watched a Lions game, you can turn on any Lions game from week 1 to week 6, and you can just watch 97. Watch 97. That's all you have to do. You see the motor, you see the spin moves. The spin move is the best in the league. It's a lot of fun to watch, but it's just constant pressure. He's constantly in the backfield. And it's not just an impact on the pass rush. He's not a pass rush specialist. He's in the backfield for running plays, and he's all over the place. That's the heart and soul of the defense. Having a high motor like that, especially on the defensive line, is huge for the team, huge for team morale. Him going down like that, they're going to need something else to at least boost the morale at the very least. So I think it's also going to be significant. Do you have anything else to add before we move on?
What's kind of funny is his injury. Did you see it?
I did, unfortunately.
It's actually not that bad. As funny as that may sound, breaking his leg is probably better than blowing out his ACL or rupturing his Achilles, which is crazy to think about. But it's sad It's absolutely disgusting, but bones grow back and they do their thing and they heal a lot quicker than Achilles or an ACL. And once he's healed, once he's back in practice, he'll be back right away. An Achilles injury for a pass rusher, that might take him an entire season to get back to form. An ACL injury, that might take him an entire season to get back to form. So it was terrible. There's a reason why I gave him my player of the week, because he should have been the defense player of the year. Shout out to Aidan. He's been crazy this year.
Absolutely.
But he'll be back in full form and he'll be terrorizing. Just imagine the Detroit Lions next year with Aidan Hutchinson on one side and Max Crosby on the other. Look out.
Dude, if it actually happens, I'll give you every single prop on the planet. I'll shout you out crazy. If it actually happens.
If the Raiders are willing to entertain it, like, why wouldn't you give up the war chest for it?
Yeah. And again, just like we talked about with the Devontae thing, it's like, what are you holding on to this one guy for when your entire organization's kind of in shambles at this point? You need a hard reset anyways.
I mean, if I was the Lions, I might be willing to send the picks and like Jameson Williams, JMO, I might send him. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
That way, maybe Josh Reynolds can drop crucial fourth down passes in the NFC Championship game. That'll be fun.
Josh Reynolds is on the Broncos. I don't think he's going to the AFC Championship game anymore.
I just like to bring up good memories. I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay.